Galatians 3:13. But Christ has rescued us from the curse pronounced by the law. When he was hung on the cross, he took upon himself the curse for our wrongdoing. For it is written in scriptures, cursed is everyone who is hung on a tree. Galatians 3:13. Now let's talk a little bit more about this curse, and you can find more information about it in Deuteronomy 26 and I believe also 27. But this curse is a little blanketed at first when you read it. It talks about how your towns will be cursed, your fields, fruit baskets, breadboards, children's crops, offspring of your herds and flocks, all of that will be cursed. But when you look deeper into it, listen to this list: diseases, defeat, madness, blindness, panic, adultery, thievery, heartache, exclusion, ridicule, mockery, weakness, and more. These are things that we experience today. Now, hear me out right here. Does that mean that we are failing to abide by the Mosaic Law? No. The Mosaic Law was not written for you and I today. It was designed for people in a specific culture and historical time period. Hear me out right on that. However, I have learned over the years of my studies that the Mosaic Law connects to God's moral law. What is that? God's moral law is Jesus' two greatest commands: loving God with all of our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and loving our neighbor as ourselves. The Mosaic law has a foundation of these two commands. And when we read through the Mosaic law, which I know is some of the most boring, heart aching, frustrating parts of the Bible to read through, we will find how these laws connect to God's moral law. And when we can take that out, then we can see how we can apply those to our lives today. So a little bit of a kind of a brief but rough overview of the law. There's a lot to go into it. Probably one of these days I'm going to break down all the different curses that show up as far as the Mosaic law is concerned. But a reminder, Jesus came to fulfill that law, and our role is to just love God with all of who we are and to love each other as we love ourselves. So be mindful when you're looking at the Mosaic Law. Be very careful if you're ever teaching the Mosaic Law, or, you know, forcing somebody to say, hey, you're not following this, because there are 613 plus laws in there. And, often when we bring it up to somebody else, we look at the stick in their own eye before we look at the log in ours. So be mindful of that. I know the Mosaic Law is still a very hot button thing in our world today, in our culture today. So, but that's why I'm going to leave it here. If you'd like to learn more about Galatians 3:13 and even the curse that's talked about too, which comes from Deuteronomy 21:23, check out today's blog, Who I Am Again, number 11. We look at the crucifixion of Christ a little bit more too. And you can check that out if you're on TikTok. Check that out in the link in my bio. If you are on YouTube, check that out in the description below. Until next time, I'll see y'all tomorrow for the next iteration of Manna for the Mind. Until then, stay blessed.